We'll start with Jack Michaels from 630 Ched. Go ahead, Jack.
Dave, my first question has to do with kind of the general tone of some of your comments leading up to the start of the season, in the sense that I get a lot of excitement out of you after, waiting so long to be a head coach in a traditional market, that you're looking forward to this season in particular because it's all Canadian teams and the real basis for some rivalries.
This is traditional to the max, that's for sure. I mean, it's I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, it's anytime when you're from Canada and you play in Canadian cities or now coaching Canadian cities, it's there's an excitement, and to have a whole 56 games of it straight it's going to be very exciting. The competition is going to be unreal. I think missing the fans is the only drawback to it, but I think the excitement that'll run through the country with people cheering on their teams will excite everybody. So I'm really looking forward. I know talking to a lot of the players, they're looking forward to it. So it's going to be a blast.
Next question, Rob Tchaikovsky, Post Media. Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, Dave. I'm just wondering, from a coaching perspective, does it make it a lot easier or a lot tougher when you only play 6 other teams?
It's a little more of a playoff mindset, because there's so many games where you're playing the same team back to back. So there's subtle adjustments you make, but I think it's going to be it'll challenge the coaches more because it is more of a playoff atmosphere. Sometimes you get in the regular season, you're just kind of games flow into each other. Every game is going to be so important. You're going to have rivals all the way across, and the competition is going to be stiff. So I think it's going to be a playoff mindset that coaches will really dig into, and I think they'll enjoy it. It's going to push coaches to be better.
Right. What's your view on preseason games? And now that you don't have any, do you kind of miss them a little bit, or are you just fine with getting right into it?
You know what? You deal with the hand you're dealt, and so we'll deal with it. But that being said, it wouldn't be bad to at least have a game or two to find a way to integrate your new players. But we'll do that in scrimmages throughout our camp here, and hopefully we can get a good read on players and start with a lineup we think we can win with.
Next question, Mark Spector, Sportsnet.
Hey, Dave. As a coach who's running a 50-50 goalie split.
How do you know that?
Well, I'm going off last year. If you're going to play a bunch of teams back to back, do you play one guy each game, or if the first guy gets a shutout the first game, do you go back with them? Like, how do you run that system when you're doing all these back to backs?
It goes more than back to backs. There's 3 and 4s and 4 and 6. So you're going to have to monitor your, just the fatigue levels of both guys. Hopefully both guys get up and going, and you have no hesitation putting either of them in. But last year with the schedule a little more balanced, we went 2 and 2. And the only time we deferred from that was back-to-back. So with as many back-to-backs this year, ideally you're probably going to get both guys in, but that all depends on how people are playing and how much they've been playing, and just get a feel for who gives you the best chance to win.
I don't know how you do this if you open your camp talking to your players and sort of setting down a theme, or if there's a certain element of your system or something that you want everyone to focus on more. Is there a message to this team this year? Is there something that you'd like this team to focus on?
Yeah, we've talked about a number of things. The biggest message is we have to take another step. I thought as a group we took steps last year. We got the play-in round was a step backwards, but there was some positive things we did, and there's lots to learn from that play-in round. So there's aspects of our game that we've talked about that we have to improve. There's aspects of our game that we want to make sure are in place just like they were last year. And it's you're going to have to read and react to a lot of situations this year, whether it be players in and out of your lineup, or the shortened schedule with as many back-to-backs as there's just a lot of factors that come into play. So as a group, we've talked about some things, and we'll continue to put those in place this week. And come January 13th, hopefully our team's ready to go, and we're be excited for the season to start.
Next question, Josh Clipperton, Canadian Press.
Hey Dave, thanks for doing this. Happy New Year.
No, thanks,
Just wondering, you talked about the condensed schedule, but like how hard is it going to be to get a read on guys? Like you got Tyson Barrie, and I know he's a player, a known quantity, but there's going to be other guys. How difficult is it in this short time frame with no preseason games to get a real read on guys and where they fit?
Well, it's there's two aspects of it. You get a read on how they fit into your team and who they might mesh with your team. Guys that have been around the league a few years, you have a pretty good idea what their capabilities are. So that's a little different. Young players coming in, they're going to be the harder ones to get a feel for, because you've seen them play in the minors, or you've seen them come up and you see where they are in camp, but it's a different when you jump into an NHL game. So it might be a little harder read on those players, but the guys that are veterans, like I say, I have a pretty good idea of what they can do. Now you just got to find the right chemistry with your group.
You coaches are going to have to wear masks behind the bench this year. I'm wondering how much of an adjustment that'll be. We saw in NFL, coaches had a lot of trouble keeping them on. They got fined. Maybe it'll be good for a lack of lip reading, but like, how do you see that? I'm a mumbler at the best of times, probably. But you're just going to have to make sure you're really, really clear on who's going. I mean, changes are so important, and you're going to have to be yelling or whatever you got to do underneath that mask. It's, we're in uncharted waters there. So we'll see. I used to have a big mustache, so maybe that was kind of like a mask. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but you're going to have to make sure you're clear on all the directions you're given on the bench. That's for sure.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, there you go.
I got you. Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean. Dave, I just wonder, it feels like a long time since we last saw you, but I just wonder, how was a break for you? And does the sense of urgency with the season starting, when like 9-10 days here, does it feel that much different from what it has maybe in the past?
It's definitely different this year, because it just feels like the year, because we stopped short and then we kind of played and now we're stopped again and playing. I don't know. It doesn't feel like a normal training camp, maybe because the numbers are smaller. There's been a lot of anticipation to get going. So maybe it's just to feel like you got unfinished business from last year, but you're anxious to get going. I know, talking to the players, they're the same way. They'd like to get up and going as quick as we can here. And, I know there's a lot of players that probably would like to play an exhibition game or two, but they're fine with just getting going. So everybody's excited to go, but it's definitely not a regular feel, but there's an urgency that that you have to get up and going as quick as you can.
And Tyson Barrie, what are your expectations for him? And how do you just evaluate his game so far in his NHL career?
Well, I've watched him quite a bit. So, he's a talented player. He's got a real creative sense to him. I like the way he passes the puck. He finds people in the open. He can make good plays out of his own end. I'm a big fan of his. So, until you get him on the ice and see how he meshes with your group, we'll see how that goes. But I have high expectations for him. I think he'll come in. He'll give our power play a little different look with the right shot. But I'm excited to see what Tyson can do, and hopefully he comes in and plays real well.
Next question, Grayson Knutson, City TV.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Hey, Coach. Just looking at some of the predictions for this Canadian division all across the country here, it seems like any one of these 7 teams could win it. I'm just wondering how you make sure that your team is ready to go, especially right at the start, and then to ensure that you don't have any lengthy losing streaks, which could be used to a playoff chance.
Well, first on that one, if the only way if you could just say, okay, we're not going to have any losing streaks, just talk about it. If that was a cure for it, that would be a lot easier said than done. But you're going to have to be ready. I'm sure every coach, not just in the Canadian League, but every division, is talking about you got to get off to a quick start. You have a short schedule. You've got to, you can't have lulls. You got to make sure your game is consistent all the way through. And every team's going to be saying it. It's about finding ways to do it every night. And I think I like where we're at. I think our group is a very motivated group. I think we'll be ready to start the year, but competition is going to be tough. You're going to have to be willing to compete as hard as you can to get points every night, and that's I'm sure every team in the league is thinking the same thing.
Next question, Jack Michaels, 630 Ched. Go ahead, Jack.
Thank you, Sean. Dave, one final question, and that would be the utilization of this taxi squad. The NFL has had it for years. It would seem to be a tool that potentially you could find an edge there in its deployment if there's some COVID situations or whatever. Have you studied how you might gain an edge off the taxi squad?
We've looked at a lot of different situations. I've talked to some people from the football world, so it's there's some different thoughts to it. We've put I think we've got a pretty good plan in place, but really you have to figure out which players are going to be on that taxi squad first, and some of it will go by position, some of it will go by roles on the team. So we put a lot of thought into it, but as we go through the camp here until we decide who are the players that might fit on that taxi squad, we'll continue to monitor as we go.
Final two questions. Tony Barrar, Oilers TV. Go ahead, Tony.
Dave, Happy New Year.
Thanks very much. You too.
Thank you. Obviously, you guys face a big challenge with the absence of Oscar Klefbom. What kind of conversations have you had with the D-Corps in terms of the valuable minutes that he put up and how that needs to be replaced?
Well, I think, you look at the minutes he played. I don't know if we have one player that's going to jump in and take those minutes from him, that amount of minutes, but we feel like we've got a real complement of D back there. It's going to be by committee. Darnell Nurse is probably going to take a few more minutes. Caleb Jones played real well when he played late in the year last year, and I look for him to take a step forward. Slater Cuckoo coming in gives us some good depth. Lagesson gives us some good depth. Bouchard is going to push, and Chris Russell is he could arguably been our best defenseman in the play-in series. So we've got good depth there, but it's going to be by committee. Clef played a lot of big minutes for us. Was a key on the power play that we think Tyson Barrie will take a lot of those minutes. So certainly a big loss for us, but not one that we can't overcome. And it's more opportunity for some other players, and we expect them to play well.
Last question, Reed Wilkins, 630 Ched. Go ahead, Reed.
Thanks, Sean. Dave, welcome back.
Thank you.
I just want to follow up on the lack of preseason games, which a couple other media members have asked about. I'm just wondering, as you go through camp, how quickly do you want to get into full scrimmages? Do you want to simulate an entire game? Do you want to simulate how the schedule might look back-to-back scrimmage, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and also I know you want intensity, but how do you manage that ultimately it's teammate on teammate too? So there's got to be a little bit of.
Yeah. I think we've got a pretty good plan in place. We're going to practice for 3 days, but within those practices, there'll be some drills that are really geared to play as actual shifts in a game. Then we're going to have a couple scrimmages, make sure we're our special teams. We're going to devote a full day to the special team. So it's a little bit of everything, but the practices will be geared to where the competition will be very much game-like. You're not going to play against another opponent. So I agree with you. You're not going to get to that, intensity where anybody's going to get hurt, hopefully. But we feel like we've got a good plan in place, and we'll go into the regular season with hopefully with good fitness and ready to play in all the structure of our game and play well.